Hello, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday, and then I post it up to Facebook and Patreon and all that sort of good stuff. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. A lot of people have written to me and said how much it's helped them and that they like their therapist, and it's a good thing. So thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, let's get back. Hello, let's get back into current events. So more domestic violence, more shootings, more just people mentally ill. It happened in Texas. So again, guys, we need to address the mental health in this country. This is a huge problem. And like I said, it's not the weapon of choice, although they will go for guns because it is the easiest form, but they'll do knives, they'll do machetes, they'll do, whatever. So seriously, start writing your congressman, start saying, hey, hello, we need to do something about this. So there is that. Okay, so any other announcements? All right, so I am getting my East Coast tour together. I will be posting where I'm going. Right now, I've got Houston and Austin on the schedule for April. I will be doing probably North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, that area around in there. I may be able to get up to DC, not sure. So if you're on the East Coast, you'd like me to hit your city, let me know where you'd like me to stop. So, and I'll put that on the schedule. I know we're definitely going to be skimming over to St. Augustine and then up. So that should be interesting. All right. So there is that. So if you're interested in tickets, go to chrisgodinez.com. Tickets are available through there. All right. So today's topic, therapy versus self-help. So here's the deal. It's an and world. And honestly, self-help can get you a long way. It really can. It's better than no help at all, right? And honestly, no help at all is better than a bad therapist. I know, because there's a lot of bad therapists out there. So we're going to talk about all of that. So, okay. So some people are like, well, what's better? Is it better to go to a therapist? Is it better to do self-help? Should I do both? Yes. Honestly, you should do both. It's read, listen, educate yourself, that kind of thing. So self-help is great because it gets you the information you need. So like how many of us, when we realized what the heck was going on, suddenly went, I think I should start listening to and reading up on and, educating myself on, personality disorders and this, that, and the other thing. So yeah, self-help is great. And the self-help books that are the most helpful are the ones that have exercises for you to do, not just describing an issue, although that is helpful too, because I recommend Object of My Affection is in My Reflection, Coping with a Narcissist by Raquel Lerner, for people who are just now coming around and seeing that, oh my gosh, there's narcissists out there. Well, this book is a great book for you to understand the different types, how they operate, why you feel the way you feel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the books that are the most helpful are the ones that have things to do, little exercises to do. So like the self-esteem workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, the inner child workbook, Catherine Taylor, the regaining the inner child, Lucia Cappuccioni, the disease to please, Harriet Breaker. It's, things that have you kind of working your mind about all of this stuff and doing exercises and the mirror work and things like that. So yes, I think self-help is great. I do. Here's where I have a problem with it, however. So now there's a couple of things. It can get you to a certain point, but if you don't have somebody that can help push you up over that hill or that mountain, you may be stuck in your own thinking. You may get stuck. You may not be able to move on. So a lot of times people get stuck in their grief or their anger or behaviors that are coming from the inner child, and they don't quite get why that's going on. They may be working the books, but they're not quite putting it all together. Sometimes it takes a therapist to be like, here you're doing this, and then here's this issue over here. I wonder, are they connected? And then making the connection and then moving forward. So sometimes it does help to have a therapist to just kind of give you that little nudge to get up over that mountain or get over that stuck point or whatever it is. So that's why I think therapy is a good thing. But caveat, I'm going to come back to no therapy is better than a bad therapist. Oh dear God. In the recent weeks, I've had several clients come in and talk to me about their previous therapists. And the previous therapist absolutely did the wrong thing. I mean, just ignored the abuse, didn't acknowledge it, invalidated the client, kind of sided with the aggressor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, oh, please remove yourself right the hell now from my profession. Thank you. So there are bad therapists out there, guys. There are bad therapists out there. You know this. I know this. You know this. Everybody knows this. So what you want to do is you want to, if you're going to get with a therapist, make sure they're not just trauma informed. See, here's the thing that really annoys me. So recently I've been hearing a lot of social influencers, oh, I'm trauma informed. I'm trauma informed. Well, what's your training? What's your experience with it? Did you grow up with these jackwagons? Did you figure yourself out first? Did you do the work? Do you have your master's or doctorate? Do you know your a-hole from a hole in the ground? Probably not. So if they're like, oh, I'm trauma informed, what's your training? What's your background? How long have you been doing this? When did you start getting interested in this? Why are you interested in this? Because remember, guys, there are a whole bunch of therapists out there that are narcissists. I'm not freaking kidding you. You've got to be careful because why? They're attracted to positions of power. Okay. So if they're in a position of power, they're going to misuse it because that's just what narcissists do. So you're going to want to ask them really good questions. So for example, what is your training? Why did you get interested in doing trauma work? How long have you been interested in trauma work? Who have you learned from? Who do you recommend to read? Who do you, it's like, make sure that they've done their work first. I cannot tell you the number of times talking with students coming up in this profession that tell me that their peers are in the therapy programs to figure themselves out. What? As opposed to they figured themselves out, they know they can help other people, and they want to get the degree to go out and help other people. That is the only reason to go get your degree. So, there's a lot of bad therapists out there. Okay. There continues to be a lot of bad therapists out there. And unfortunately, it's up to us to kind of screen and see if this person is a good fit or not. So a lot of therapists are stopping the, 15-minute, kind of like consult. Let's talk. Let me see if I'm a good fit. They just take people. They just sight unseen, just take people. I refuse to do that for a couple of reasons. One, I may not be the right therapist for this person. Seriously, guys, because you know me, I'm blunt as a ton of bricks, and I swear like a sailor. Not on here anymore. I wish I could, but so so if that kind of therapy is not going to mesh with a person, like say they're super religious or they've had a lot of trauma around somebody who's blunt or somebody who's swears a lot, then I'm not the right therapist for them. Okay. And that's kind of why I like doing those little 15-minute consults to kind of be like, okay, well, what's going on? What do you want to work on? What are you looking for? What do you hope to get out of it? Kind of thing. Cause it's a real red flag when somebody comes in and it's like, well, I want you to fix me. And it's like, no, no, I will teach you how to fix yourself, So kind of getting a feel for who they are, they get a feel for who I am. And then we can decide mutually whether to go ahead and fill out paperwork, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I never get upset when people ask me questions because it's kind of like they have a right to know, because here's the thing about therapy. Self-help is great. We're going to get back to that in a bit because like I said, I think self-help is wonderful and it should be used in conjunction with therapy when you get stuck. You see where I'm going with that? It's like you can get yourself pretty far doing your own work. But if you get stuck, then it's time to get somebody to help push you. But in therapy, our profession is asking people to bare their souls to a total stranger. Okay, first of all, that's not normal behavior because you just don't walk out and bare your soul to a total stranger. So that's why it's important for us to verify who this person is. Do they know their a-hole from a hole in the ground? Are they the right therapist? Is this going to be a good match? Because sometimes it's just not a good match. It's just, it's not the right match. They might need somebody who does a different modality. I do kind of eclectic. I do a combination of different ones to get my people where they need to go. Maybe they need DBT. I do CBT mostly. So, it just is a good idea to do the reading up on it. And it's like, what modality do you want? What do you think is going to work for you? Some people love Gestalt. I love Gestalt. It does help get to some of those really stuck places. Gestalt is the empty chair technique. It's fabulous. So, ooh, I need to turn the sound off. Boop, there we go. It's an older therapy, but it's a good therapy, and it has its place. Would I suggest you do Gestalt all the time? No. EMDR is a great therapy. DBT is a great therapy. It just depends on what you need and what's going to work for you. So it bothers me when therapists are like, "Oh, I'm trauma informed," and what they really mean is, "I spent a weekend seminar listening to somebody, and that's my trauma experience." No, no, sir. No, no. No, you need somebody who's been there, done that, or who has extensively studied it, and or somebody who is constantly working on those, new theories and new, going to the consulting with other people. I think their own experience is going to be the most helpful. If they've been through trauma themselves, they're going to be the most helpful because they've survived it and they know what works for them, and they can turn around and teach that to other people. Now, they don't have to have had their own trauma, but they do need to know their a-hole from a hole in the ground. It's like, it cannot just be a weekend seminar. It's got to be like, no, I've studied this. This is a lifelong study. This is like stuff that I know works. This is what, this is how I help my clients. So you want to really interview your therapist before you go to them, because, like, again, you're bearing your soul. We've already been traumatized. We've already been traumatized by family of origin, maybe a romantic partner, a boss, friends, whatever. The last thing you want is to go be traumatized by a therapist. And that happens. Holy crap. It happens because the therapist will invalidate, side with the aggressor, not know their a-hole from a hole in the ground, direct you in the wrong direction as opposed to getting you self-sufficient, working on yourself. So yeah, if a therapist does not feel right to you, fire them. Listen to me now, believe me later. If a therapist does not feel right to you and you've already started with them, fire them. Fire them. There is nothing wrong with saying, I'm not feeling the love here. This is just not working. Thanks. Bye. And a good therapist will be like, okay, well, if you ever need me, here I am, and let it go. A bad therapist, which I've seen them do, holy crap, they'll be like, well, but why? And I'm just like, sweetheart, they've said they don't want you as a therapist. Let it go. Let it go. It's their reason and their reason alone. And if they want to come back, they will. If they don't, they won't. So yeah, there are bad therapists out there, 110%. So, all right. So the benefits of therapy and the benefits of self-help. Hold on. Okay. So the benefits of therapy is it can help you understand what's going on. So, for example, I've had several clients that were misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder. No, they had PTSD, because if you looked at their biopsychosocial, there was a ton, ACE, questionnaire, ton of childhood traumas, ton. And I'm just like, this is PTSD. This is not borderline. Let's go through and then helping them understand what that diagnosis is, why maybe they got the diagnosis. And the thing that really makes me angry is that in one case, the psychiatrist literally talked to them for 5 minutes, didn't look at the ACEs, the ACE thing, the childhood trauma, didn't ask them about their family of origin, and within 5 minutes diagnosed them with BPD. And I was just like, please leave my profession. I don't care that you have your PhD and you're a psychiatrist, you're a jackwagon. So again, be careful, because if you go to get a psych eval and this person's a narcissist, they're going to label you as BPD as opposed to PTSD, which is what we have all got because of these abusive mother cluckers. Do you see where I'm going with that? So, okay. So, helping to understand a diagnosis, helping to understand what's going on. If you've been misdiagnosed, it's really good to question the diagnosis. Like, do you think that this is correct? And I will do that with my therapy. It's like, no, here's all the criteria for BPD, borderline personality disorder. Here's the criteria for PTSD. Funny, you don't match that. You match one on BPD, but you match all of them on PTSD. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist. Anyway, the point being, it can help you understand and it can help destigmatize and it can help you fight for your medical records, for your correct diagnosis, for your whatever. So that is part of that. So hold on, back to this. This is from Psych Central. Why do people go to talk therapy? Challenging life events like divorce, major illness, loss of a loved one, surviving abuse, etc., etc., etc. Going to a therapist can help with that. So oftentimes when we're coming from abuse, right? Parents were abusive, the spouse was abusive, friends are abusive, work situation was abusive. The therapist acts almost like a social worker. So when I get clients in, I hook them up to social services like crazy. You need support. You absolutely need support coming out of one of these abusive relationships, whether it's family or romantic or friends or whatever. So it's really important to make sure that you've got a therapist that, again, knows what they're doing and understands the value of support and starts hooking you up with social services. So, like Fresh Start Women's Resource Center here in the Phoenix area, other support groups. So there's grief support groups, there's, divorce support groups, and you hook them up with it. If somebody's got an addiction issue, okay, here's the list of AA. You just hook them up with the services that are going to get them to the next level. So it's support. Therapy is really support. It really is, because it's kind of like, first of all, okay, you're bearing your soul, but you've also hopefully found a therapist that you trust. And when the going gets tough, you call that therapist, and that therapist just gives you that little, you've got this. You've got this. And I'll do that for my clients. So, like, they're having a rough time. They text me, I'm having a really rough day. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I just needed to hear something positive. You are doing great, sweetie. You know what you're doing. Trust your gut. You've got this. And that's all they need. Because if they didn't get that from family of origin, they may need to get it from their therapist, and that's okay. And again, I have really strong boundaries. It's like, look, I don't answer the phone after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Sorry. But other than that, if you need a little boost, I'm happy to text you. Or if you need to talk for less than 15 minutes, I'm happy to talk with you. If I can, if I've got the time, yeah, doesn't bother me. So yeah, it's you need to make sure that you've got that support from your therapist. So coping with long-term illness of yourself or a loved one, again, that support is aspect. Sexual or really hard to overcome on your own. Not impossible, but it is hard to overcome on your own because you've got some thoughts that may or may not be helpful. So it's the mistaken thoughts, mistaken beliefs where the therapist can come in and go, let's challenge that thought. Let's see if that thought is real. So oftentimes with physical and mental abuse, especially from parents of origin, we get mistaken thoughts about who we are in the universe. We do. And it's really good to have a therapist be able to go, that's not true. What they said about you, they said you were lazy. Are they smoking the ganja? You're not lazy. Dear God, you're one of the hardest working people I've seen in a long time. Do you see where I'm going with that? Challenging those mistaken thoughts and helping the person see themselves in a real mirror as opposed to a funhouse mirror. So that's where the therapy can help. Hold on. But a good therapist, not a bad one. And again, there's different types of therapy. Cognitive behavioral, which is what I do, interpersonal therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, psychodynamic, supportive therapy. There is tons of different modalities, EMDR, you name it. So it helps you have a better understanding of what's going on, why this is happening, why you're having those thoughts, that kind of thing. It helps you develop independence. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but when you work with a therapist, the whole goal of a therapist is to kind of be like, how do I explain this? You're teaching the bird to fly. You're teaching the bird to fly. So it's like, here, look, here's this tool. Here's this tool. Here's how you use this. Now, oh, no, wait, you want to use a hammer, not a screwdriver, or you want to use a screwdriver, not a hammer. So you teach them tools that they can use so that when they're good, You know, when you send them out that door for the last time or you end the video session for the last time, you're like, okay, you've got every single tool and you know how to use them. You have got this. If you ever need to come for a tune up, you know where I am. Go be awesome. And then you send them out into the world and they're confident enough to go do it on their own. So that is what you're looking for. You're not looking for a therapist that's going to keep somebody in therapy for 25 years. Now, this is why I don't like traditional psychoanalytic therapy. Okay, prime example would be Woody Allen. He's been on a couch for 40, 50 years plus. Yeah. So that's not the point of therapy. In my opinion, therapy is to be, if not brief, it is to be helpful and it is to encourage the person to go be autonomous. Go out and be awesome. You've got all the tools, you know how to work them, you know when to use a screwdriver, you know when to use a hammer. You got this, and send them off to go be successful. That's really what a good therapist does. Hold on one moment. Oh my goodness, it is so dry. Holy cow. Okay. All right. So, did the types of therapy, better understanding of yourself, improving interpersonal relationships, how to cope with stress, how to cope with anxiety. That's a hard one to overcome on your own. Now, can you overcome it on your own? Yeah, you can. Absolutely, 110%. Sometimes, again, it just helps to have that little push to help you use those tools or understand those tools or remember when to use those tools. So, like I said, when we're in the middle of a panic attack, it's really hard to remember to breathe. I am the same boat. It's like sometimes I don't catch it until I'm already to the, oh shit. Okay. Oops. It's like, I got to catch myself. I got to catch my breath. I got to start doing the self-soothing because it's hard to stop it when it's in the middle of it. So I think the biggest mistake that happens is that, especially with younger therapists, maybe new to it, feel like they can't share their own experience. And honestly, I think sharing their own experience really helps the therapeutic process because, I'm not up on a mountaintop. My doo-doo does stink. Been there, done that. Have panic attacks? You betcha. Went through abuse? 100%. How did I survive? Let me tell you. And it helps because then it helps the client not feel one down and it helps the client feel like they're not alone. And that's why I do these videos. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. So if your therapist makes you feel like you're alone, get a different therapist. That's really my big thing. Okay. They help you create plans. They help you plan for the future. It helps you get moving, helps you get over or get through trauma, overcoming your fears, creating a routine and stability, because a lot of us did not have routine or stability. So the lasting effect is that nothing makes me happier when I hear from former clients that go, I just wanted to call you and say thank you because this happened and I heard your voice in my head and I knew exactly what to do. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. That's what I want. Fabulous. Not necessarily my voice, but the fact that you remembered what to do. That is fantastic. Keep going. So that's the kind of therapist or therapy that is going to be helpful to you. So that's why you want to interview them. That's why you want to make sure that you guys mesh and everything's good. Okay, so that is on Psych Central if you want to know the benefits of therapy. So self-help, again, I think is fantastic. I am so for it. The only thing that I would caveat is you want to make sure you know who you're listening to. So if you're listening to some jackwagon on TikTok that doesn't know their a-hole from a hole in the ground, please stop. Find somebody who's got their degree, who's been doing this for years, who knows what they're talking about, who's got good references and good resources so that you have the tools to help yourself. You don't want to start listening to somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. So for example, I was having a conversation with one of my nephews yesterday. Was yesterday? No, day before. And he was saying, oh, well, everyone's narcissistic. And I was like, stop right there. Let's talk. I was like, where'd you hear that? And he's like, oh, on TikTok. And I'm like, may I do a little bit of psychoeducation? He said yes. And then I explained the difference between self-care and self-esteem and selfish. Two totally different things. Selfish is narcissism. Self-care and self-esteem is self-esteem. It's not love me, love me, love me. It's I like myself. Okay. And I'm going to take care of myself because I need to, because if I don't, I'm going to keel over. There's a big difference. Selfish is always at the expense of somebody else. Always. Self-care is not. Self-care is you take care of yourself on your own terms without hurting anybody. That's self-care. So, doing a little bit of education with that. So, and where did he get that idea? TikTok. Don't get me started. So, yeah, so be careful who you listen to. Okay, hold on. Okay, so basically, yeah, self-help books absolutely are appropriate, and I 100% agree that you can take yourself really, really far with them. The time to start looking for a therapist is if you feel stuck. If the same thoughts are happening over and over and over and over and over, and you can't seem to move past them, there's something else that needs to be going on. And you're not gonna necessarily get that point of view on your own. So you want to make sure that you get with a good therapist to help push you up that hill. Your symptoms are long lasting or extreme. The self help is no longer helpful. It's kind of like, okay, well, I've done this and I'm still doing this. Okay, well, then we need to do something different. So this has been great. It's gotten you to this point, but you need the next up the hill. So there is that. Okay. So yeah, so self-help books, absolutely. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I love when people start working on the books and I don't even have to recommend them. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm already working on the self-esteem workbook." Great. Fantastic. Let's talk about that in session. So it's really good to um work on yourself. And I do that to this day. It's like if I see a title that looks interesting, I will pick it up and start reading it to see if it would help me, help my clients, help, whatever. I'm currently reading one on forensic psychology. So, things that interest you, it's perfectly okay. But if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you're having the same behavior or the same thoughts or whatever, then it's time to look for professional help, 100%. So, yeah, it's self-help books are great and they get you where you need to go. Some people, that's all they need, but generally those people don't have the history of trauma that we have that brings with it all of those that lovely baggage of, bad self-esteem, low self-esteem, mistaken thoughts, mistaken beliefs, mistaken behaviors. It's like it's good to have an outside view that gives you a clear view and not a fun house view. So yeah, so there that is. So there's that. So all right, let me dive into questions. Hold on one moment. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with self-help. And I like it in conjunction with therapy. And any therapist, let's take this a step further. Any therapist who has a problem with you reading up on stuff or reading up on, doing self-help or whatever, what's their problem? Because I want my people to get healthy. And if the self-help books are helping them, then I say all for it. Now, again, if they're getting misinformation from TikTok, that's different. But, it's always interesting to me to hear how threatened bad therapists are by self-help books. And only bad therapists are threatened by them. Good therapists are not, because they recognize help is help and it's cool. So, all right, let's dive into the questions. Is it possible to have too much therapy and can that be harmful? It seems that some therapists just keep seeing clients and continuing sessions when it is no longer useful. 110%. 110%. So here's the deal with me. I keep track of why they originally. Whoops, everybody okay in there? Yeah. Okay. Lucky. Banging around. So I keep track of why they originally came in. What was their presenting problem? What did they want to work on? And is that getting better? And eventually, honestly, what ends up happening with most of my clients is that we get to a point where it's like, wow, I almost canceled the session today because everything's going great. Okay, well, let's just do a check-in. No charge, just a check-in. I know you're doing good. I'll note that in the notes. Let's put one out for a month, see how you're doing, So, and if the next month everything's good, then I suggest that we end therapy because there's nothing to work on, right? And that's what a good therapist does. A bad therapist will find things to work on. I mean, I will ask them. It's like, okay, is there anything else? Is there anything you're concerned about? Anything you want to work on? Or is everything okay? It's entirely up to you. Oh, it's good. Okay, well, let's just do a little review. Oh my gosh, look how far you've come. Look at where we started and where we are today. How amazing are you? Seriously. And then, I let them know. It's like, if you ever need me, you've got my phone number. You can shoot me a text and I'll, update the paperwork and we can start again if we need to. And if not, good luck. If you feel like checking in, let me know how you're doing. I'm okay with that. So that's it. So yeah, the bad ones do. And I have seen that. Oh boy, I'll tell you something. Going to conventions and listening to other therapists, I'm either really happy with what I'm hearing or I just want to go into the hotel room and bang my head against the wall because I'm just like, why are you in my profession? But yeah, the bad ones do. The bad ones keep them going for years and years and years and years and years. And they're not giving them the tools, or they're not helping them practice the tools. And again, with trauma, it can be a 3+ year journey because of the amount of trauma, because of what's happened. So anything really more than 5 or 6 years, if there's not a lot of trauma there, if there is trauma but not a lot, then yeah, that's kind of a question mark. If there's a lot of trauma, yeah, it could go to 5 or 6 years. You bet. If there's been a lot of deaths, if there's been a lot of witnessing death, if there's been a lot of, yeah, that that's a tough one. But no, the ones who intentionally, when there's nothing to talk about, yeah, that's unethical in my feeling of that. So okay, yep. All right. So what to do when an abuser keeps up a smear campaign because you no longer want contact? The abuser contacts your family to try to convince them of their side of what's happening. Okay, so here's the deal. When you go no contact with an abuser, it's a really good idea to inform family and friends. I have gone no contact with this person. I do not want any information about me going to them, and I do not want to know what they're doing. So they may try to contact you. Please shut them down. I'm not playing. I'm not interested. If after you've told family and friends that, and the family and friends are still talking to the abuser, you need to cut them off too. So when you go no contact, it is like a wall coming down, and you let the family and friends know, and you basically let them know, if you relay messages from this person, or if you tell them anything about what I'm doing, you too will be no contact, period. And don't be afraid of losing these people. Don't be afraid of losing these people. Don't. Because if they're siding with the aggressor, if they're siding with the abuser, then you definitely don't want anything to do with them at all. Period. And they're playing games. And it's, remember, you are the greatest game in town. You're the greatest entertainment in town at that point. They really enjoy the drama and the chaos that's ensuing with this smear campaign. So yeah, just tell them, it's like, I don't want to hear anything from them. I don't want to know. And please do not share anything about my life to them. And if they continue to do that, you cut that flying monkey off. Absolutely. And people are afraid of losing family and friends when they leave an abuser. You're going to. Let's be clear. You're going to, because there are people out there that are damaged themselves that are going to side with the aggressor, which is a ego defense that children do. So this is clearly people that have not worked on their inner child. So you definitely want to work on you and work on being okay not having those people in your life. You're better off without them. If they're colluding, and that's what they're doing, colluding with the abuser, you do not want them in your life. 110%. Okay. Recently, myself and my partner have gone through a schism. It's immensely triggering for me, and I'm not sure why my response is so extreme. Are relationship breakdowns innately triggering? Whew. That's a good question. Well, it depends. I don't have enough information to really explain to you what's going on because I'm not sure what's going on myself. Recently, my partner and whoa. Recently, my partner and I have gone through a schism. It's immensely triggering for me, and I'm not sure why my response is so extreme. Are relationship breakdowns innately triggering? Well, they can be. If there's a lot of abandonment in the family of origin, if there was a lot of abuse in the family of origin, it could be. So, honestly, without more information and getting a bigger picture, I'm not quite sure how to guide you on that. What I would say is journal it out. What about this particular interruption in the relationship is causing such an extreme reaction? What does it remind you of? When did you feel this way in the past? And if you need to, get with a good trauma therapist and start working on that, because that might be something to do with family of origin or some trauma that you went through as a kid. I don't know.
There's a follow up in the chat right there.
Oh, okay. Follow up to my question. He cyber cheated knowing I had a past history of abuse and trust with sexual abuse. Oh, that's a huge betrayal. Okay. That's a huge betrayal. I would have a huge reaction to that. Absolutely. So here's the deal. You want a list of deal breakers. What is your list of deal breakers? What are things that you absolutely will not put up with from anybody? Okay. And especially in a relationship. Disrespect. That right there, cheating, that's a disrespect. Name calling, cheating, lying, rewriting history, blaming you, flipping the script, all of the gaslighting, all of those are immediate ejections from the game. So you're not overreacting. If somebody cheated on you, I'd stick a fork in that and be done. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me. I mean, if you want to continue on, then I would strongly suggest that you figure out what's going on and why this person is cyber cheating and why they betrayed you. And I really wouldn't stick around because generally the people who cheat, generally, not always, but generally cheaters tend to be disordered. They do. And they've got a sense of entitlement and they feel like they can and they don't think about the other person, selfish. So you don't deserve to be cheated on. Nobody does. Nobody does. And yeah, I would have a very strong reaction to that too, along the lines of hit the road, Jack, and don't come back no more. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that definitely. And work on your self-esteem. You don't deserve to be cheated on ever. Ever. Okay. So that would be my suggestion. All right, my loves, I am going to stick a fork in it for today. Next week, we are going to talk about what you need for divorce. I know, because we're coming up on that end of the year. And I swear to you, everyone suddenly over Christmas decides that's it, I'm done. And they're going to file for divorce. So here's what you need to know. We're going to talk about what you need to know, what kind of attorney to get. We talked about what kind of therapist to get. You're going to need to get a damn good attorney. Don't try to do it on your own. So, and we're going to talk about why. So we're going to talk about things you need for divorce, what you need to know for divorce, because if you're divorcing a disordered abuser, buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but it's going to be worth it. So anyway, all right, that's what we're going to talk about. You guys be good, and I will talk to you next Sunday. Bye.